right, we're gonna get started now with our little sleepy time, doo-doo time webinar. So just to start off with, I'm not a sleep therapist, I'm not a doctor, none of that. I'm some guy who has been very interested in how the body works, and I've been doing a lot of research into that over the last probably 13 to 14 years. Put a lot of time into different things and how the body works, and obviously sleep comes up a lot with our clients when we're coaching our clients. So many people have sleep issues, so I decided that it'd be a good webinar and a good subject to cover as far as interesting subjects go, because most people have had or do have some kind of a sleep issue, and I think if you're watching this, you probably have a sleep issue. So, and it's like torture, especially when it gets severe. I mean, if you go through a few nights of no or little sleep, it literally like torture. I mean, you cannot operate. And I'm going to go through why that is, why you actually can't operate when you don't have enough sleep. Like, what is that? And what happens to the brain and the nervous system and the neurons and so on when you don't sleep. So first off, I'm going to answer some questions that we've been given prior to the actual webinar, and some of the questions that I got we're going to cover in anyway. So in actual fact, most of them. So the first question is actually, here's a good question. So the best remedy to get rapid eye movement sleep, REM sleep. So REM sleep, just so that you all know the difference between non-REM sleep and REM sleep. So non-REM sleep is the deep sleep that you have. That's when you kind of dead to the world, and that happens for about 90 minutes after you fall asleep. So that's the first part of your sleep cycle. Your sleep cycle kind of goes into 4 parts, what it should do if you've got healthy sleep. So the first part is where your body creates human growth hormone. It's where your all the rejuvenation of the cells occurs, where your immune system builds, where fat burning happens. All of that happens in your non-REM sleep. So that's like the deep sleep cycle. The deep sleep cycle that I'm talking about, the security guard on night shift, that guy who's lying over the back of his chair, dead to the world, and you just can't seem to wake the guy up. So that's the non-REM sleep, and it obviously has its function. And it's actually researching sleep. It's amazing how smart the body is and how it does certain things, like put you into this deep sleep to first of all get that recovery back from the day and get the body rejuvenating again. And then you're going to REM sleep, which is the lighter kind of sleep. And in fact, the brain goes into overdrive at this point, and it starts to, that's where the rapid eye movement starts. And when you see people sleeping and their eyes are moving under their eyelids, that's the REM type of sleep. So if you have, and you use as much and sometimes more energy in that part of your sleep than you do when you're awake. So sometimes that could be the reason why you wake up feeling like you've just, I don't know, been to the gym or something. And you have, you've been to the gym in your sleep, because that's where you dream and all of these things happen. The thing with it that it does do, though, is that it rectifies memory. So if you're not getting that part of your sleep, you find you get a very short-term memory loss. You have all sorts of cognitive issues. There's other reasons for that too. But if you're not getting your REM sleep, the last part of the night's sleep, you actually start to have memory issues and those kinds of things. So that's the difference. So, okay, let's get into how you get more of it. So firstly, you have to make sure that your room temperature is at the correct temperature. So in South Africa and in Europe, we speak in Celsius. And so Celsius would be about 18 degrees Celsius. Your room should be about 18 degrees Celsius. Your in the US or in Fahrenheit at least, it would be about 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's a comfortable temperature to sleep in, and especially when it gets into REM sleep. The body doesn't like warm temperatures. The other thing that starts to happen if it's too warm is the production of melatonin, the sleep hormone, which everybody probably knows about. If you're on this podcast, you've probably looked into melatonin. So the production of melatonin starts to decrease when the hotter it gets. So you have to have that in. The other thing is, so there's a bunch of things that you need to look at. So let me just get my document up here. You're not going to see it, but I'm going to read it off so that I don't miss anything out. So you have, so taking melatonin firstly is not the right thing to do. You don't want to be taking melatonin, but you do want to have the correct room temperature, like I say, and you also can do a little exercise where you start to massage these muscles on the sides of the head, because if you go to sleep with a tight neck, you'll wake up during your REM sleep. So you need to make sure that your muscles are relaxed. You get those little like neck pressure devices that you can lie on before you go to sleep, and just get that into your muscles in your neck and just loosen them up. And just underneath the skull there, you can press in with your fingers and you'll feel it's very tight and it can be quite sore. You just got to find the right spot. And if you press it in, just hold it there and you'll find that it puts a bit of pain into your head like that. And then the pain slowly starts to subside. If it doesn't subside, stop doing it then. There's something else wrong. So, okay. That's the other thing that you got to do for your REM sleep and your deep sleep. The other thing is, don't have big meals before you go to bed. So if you rather eat at if you're going to go to bed at say 10 p.m., eat at 6 p.m. and don't eat again, because that also messes with the production of melatonin. So you don't want to be going to bed on a full stomach while your stomach is digesting food, because the gut microbes that are busy with digesting food, some of them also produce serotonin. So serotonin is a precursor to melatonin. So to get melatonin produced, you need serotonin. And before that, you need other things to make serotonin, which I'll get into. So that's the other thing that you have to do, is you've got to make sure that you are have that amount of serotonin being produced so that you can produce the melatonin. Taking a melatonin supplement is not the correct way of doing it. In fact, taking a melatonin supplement is a quick fix and can get you to sleep, but it's the pineal gland stops receiving it and needs more and more and more and more of it to put you to sleep. So eventually it's like a drug almost, where your body becomes tolerant to it and you just don't need it anymore. You just can't take it anymore, and you can't take enough of it. So that's when it becomes a bit toxic. Another thing that you have to really look at to get this kind of deep sleep is, and this is easy to do because this is just something that you do living your life, but you do have to manage and control it, is your blue light and your red light. So blue light, literally that's what it is. When the sky is blue, you're getting blue light. When the sky is red, you're getting red light. Red light is the light that you want. So if you're waking up at dawn and you're watching the sunrise, that is the exact right color light that you need to produce melatonin, and it will store it in your eyeballs. And then we're going to be sharing a document about this. It's one of the more difficult documents to read that we have, because it has a lot of scientific terms in it and you're going to have to get a dictionary out when you read it. But it's called Light in Your Body, or Body and Light, or something like that. But you'll see it on the link that we're going to share here. So when you have this red light, it produces melatonin. It has, but you also have to have those precursors. But let's just get into the melatonin part. So now your body produces melatonin. It produces melatonin at dusk as well. When the sun starts going down and the sky turns red, that's the red light you want. If you're in an area that possibly winter where the days are very short and the nights are very long, you can use an infrared lamp, like one of those lamps that you use for sports injuries or muscle injuries or something like that. So that's one of the things that you can do. So the things that I do is I make sure I get up to see the sunrise. I watch the sunset. I also put a red light filter on my phone. It's called Twilight, and it works. It works. So my phone has a very dull screen, like all day. It's like dull red all day. And there's a little man in the corner. Let me see if I can pull it up here and you can see, maybe you can see it. So that's kind of what my phone looks like. And down in the corner, there's a little man over there that you can press and the screen will turn. You press it again and the screen goes back red. Well, it should do. There, it went back red. Goes blue, goes red. So it's better than the comfort filter that you have that comes standardly with the phone. And I've been using this for probably about 6 weeks now. And although I was sleeping well already, I'm really sleeping well now. It actually does work. It's not like it's some kind of a fad, like this nice little app. So it's an app called Twilight. Download it, and it can also, you put it in automatic, so it'll take your time zone and it'll give you a sunrise on your phone, like the sunrise kind of light on your phone, and then make the light blue throughout the day. So that's why the whole thing about blue light comes in. People are looking at blue light on their computers and on their phones after dusk or before dawn, and it's messing with their circadian rhythm. Okay, so circadian rhythm is your cycle of wake and sleep and wake and sleep. So that's why when you go fly to another country around the globe, and you're going to a different time zone, you experience jet lag. Your circadian rhythm goes out. So there's a remedy for that as well, which I'll get into a little bit later. It's actually the main remedy for all sleep, in fact. All right. So the other thing that you've got to look out for is deficiencies. So, I mean, we all know that, you take a bit of magnesium glycinate and you'll sleep better. But, do you know why? Or if your zinc is low, then you won't sleep, and vitamin B1 and all of these things. So you can't just take one and not the other. You've got to take all of these types of supplements or food that has them in, preferably, because a lot of them are cofactors for making melatonin. So you have to have the cofactors. Cofactor means it's something that activates, like serotonin, and then something goes in with the serotonin and it activates that, and it makes melatonin, and then melatonin activates and you can sleep. Okay, so things like coffee or at least caffeine. So what caffeine does is people go, yeah, I have to have caffeine to get some energy. Caffeine doesn't give you energy at all. Does nothing for energy. All it does is it blocks off your little receptors that tell you that you're tired. So you have these hormones that are supposed to put you to sleep, and they touch on these receptors, and then the body gets tired. It puts its head on the pillow and it goes to sleep nicely. But when you start adding stimulants like caffeine, it blocks those receptors so that you don't know you're tired. That just sounds unhealthy in itself. So instead of like trying to get energy from caffeine, the better way of doing it would be getting energy from the sources you get energy from, which is your food. Everybody likes a cup of coffee. I like a cup of coffee. But using it to stay awake or to feel alert or something, then there's something wrong. And you're masking it just like any other drug masks an unwanted condition. All right, cool. So that's the start of how you get which is the most important thing, your non-REM sleep and your REM sleep. And then the next question was the pros and cons of taking melatonin, which I've kind of gone into. So you shouldn't be taking melatonin. You know, a lot of people that you know about the hormone replacement therapy, and every single one of my clients talks about a hormone replacement that they're on, and they don't want to be on it because they know that it's messing their body up. Well, melatonin is that. Melatonin is a hormone replacement. And if you're going to take one, your body is going to produce less and less and less of it, and the receptors are going to accept less and less and less of it, and you're going to end up with more sleep trouble. So it's like a solution that becomes a bigger problem. All right, so that's the melatonin, I think, out of the way. If you have more questions on that, please just write it down there, and I'll answer some more questions on that. I say, so what would great sleep hygiene look like? So that's also kind of something I've just been into as well. So we have a look at your blue light and your red light and times of the day and so on. So if you wanted to have the right amount of sleep, get your blue light and your red light in, and have you want to get your 8 hours a night, which is about average that these little Homo sapien bodies of ours like. So if you want to get like 8 hours in, you should probably go to bed at around about 10 or 11 p.m. at night, and then wake up 8 hours later, so that you've watched the sun go down and you're watching the sun come up. So that's why people who get up early and get their day started early just seem a bit brighter than everybody else. They get a better night's sleep than everybody else. I'm not talking about the guy who lay awake all night. He's not the guy who gets up early. He's the guy who gets up too early, which brings me to my next subject, which is you get different kinds of sleeplessness. You'll get sleeplessness where the person can't sleep because of he just can't switch off. He's too wired. Now, that is normally got to do with a deficiency. Also, the red light, blue light thing, there's a few factors that are involved there, but very much a deficiency. Then it would be a deficiency in the cofactors for producing melatonin, which are magnesium, zinc, and the most important one is vitamin D. If you are having trouble sleeping, vitamin D is what you need. Now, like I said, I'm not a doctor, but if I was having sleep trouble, I would take up to 50,000 international units of vitamin D per day. So now there was a study done on vitamin D and vitamin D levels in the body, just on the subject. And they asked this guy who did the study, did you come across anybody in these thousands of people that you did this study on who had toxic levels of vitamin D? And he said, not one. There's not one. So we're being told that we're supposed to have like 400 to 800 international units of vitamin D per day, where you're supposed to be having tens of thousands of vitamin D per day. If you have that amount of vitamin D, it helps your body utilize calcium as well. Calcium deficiency is part of is one of the causes of sleeplessness. So now your body with vitamin D starts to use calcium, and it starts to deposit calcium. But you don't want it depositing calcium in the wrong places, like in your joints or in your kidneys or in your arteries, God forbid. You want it to deposit the calcium in your bone where it's necessary. So for it to do that, it needs vitamin K2. That's why you'll see little supplements in the shop. It's vitamin D3, vitamin K2. So that's the deal with the vitamin D. You've got to have the vitamin D. If you don't have the vitamin D, you're not going to get sleep. And the vitamin D again comes from your body's way of absorbing sunlight and actually turning it into a hormone, because vitamin D is not actually a vitamin, it's a hormone. So it's one of the hormones which is a precursor to making melatonin. All right, cool. So then the best time to take your vitamin D is at dinner time. So you take all your vitamin D at dinner time before you go to bed. That will help you. That will help you sleep the most, because vitamin D is a precursor to serotonin, and serotonin is a precursor to melatonin, and you'll fall asleep. Just keep in mind, if you are on some kind of a psychiatric drug, first check with your doctor before taking lots of vitamin D or taking serotonin, or the next thing I want to talk about called tryptophan, which is an amino acid, which is also a precursor to serotonin. So if you're going to take tryptophan, it's definitely going to relax the body. It's going to make, it's going to be able to get you to sleep better because it just relaxes the neurons, and then it produces serotonin and produces melatonin. But some of these psychiatric drugs mess with serotonin levels in the body, and so you just need to check with your doctor on that. I don't want to be telling you to take all the stuff and then something happens. All right, so and the thing with tryptophan as well is, so when you're taking tryptophan, which is an amino acid, you need to take it on its own. So try to take it with your breakfast or lunch and then take other amino acids at night, or the other way around, because tryptophan is one of the amino acids that it competes with other amino acids for its little place in the body. So if you're taking tryptophan, you need to take it at a different time of the day to when you're taking your other amino acids, because otherwise it just won't be absorbed, or you won't get as much absorption as you wanted. Okay, so the other question I had was the sleep hygiene. Oh, I've answered that question. Okay, so waking up at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m., that's what I wanted to get into. So waking up at between 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. This person said they've been on our program and they keep waking up at between 10 a.m. and 4 a.m. On day 10 of our program. So they got to day 10 and suddenly they started waking up at 2 a.m. So the reason for that kind of thing is, so 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. wake up is a stress thing. So it's got to do with cortisol levels that are being dumped into the body. And then the mind starts to race when you wake up and you can't seem to get any sleep because you're thinking of all sorts of interesting things that are worrying you that actually aren't important. So so what might be the right amount? Sorry, I'll answer that question just now, Stephen. So what would be, let me answer that question now so I don't go past it. All right, so what would be the right amount of deep versus REM sleep? So deep sleep is your non-REM sleep, which is about 90 minutes. That's the right amount of deep sleep you need. The rest of the night, it'll be different phases of REM sleep that you'll get through. So if you like, for instance, wake up in the middle of your deep sleep, you'd probably find it very hard to get back to sleep at that point, where it's easier to get back to sleep on the REM type of sleep. So you'll be doing about 90 minutes of deep sleep and about 6 hours or 6 hours plus or minus on the REM sleep. I hope that answers your question. All right, so back to the stress and waking up at 2 a.m. and to 4 a.m. So what happens is when you're deficient in vitamin B1, good. So vitamin B1, which is what chills you out. It actually creates energy in the body. It helps your body utilize food for energy. That's what vitamin B1 does, thiamine or benfotiamine. And although it seems like that would keep you awake, it's actually a good management of energy. That's really the right word for it. Is B1 helps you manage energy properly. So if you go deficient in B1, which you will do on our program if you're not eating enough nutritional yeast, and I'll explain why, is then you would have trouble with stress. So stress, waking up at 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. is a deficiency. B1, or it's electrolytes, or it's your magnesium, or it's potassium. It's one of those things. So here's what happens when you do our program. So when you're not doing our program, you're eating a bunch of food that's loaded with bad types of electrolytes. There's like MSG in there, and there's table salt, and there's a whole lot of other stuff, and it starts depleting you in certain things. But here's what starts to happen when you, but also when you're eating sugar and carbohydrates, water follows that into your body and you become waterlogged. So you have like, for every gram of carbohydrates, you have a gram or 2 grams of sugar, water that goes in there. When you go off the carbohydrates and sugar, it rids your body of that extra water. So now you don't need that. When I'm saying extra water, it's like unnecessary water that's being kept in the body. But with that goes your electrolytes, it goes all sorts of nutrients. So your nutrients up. The other thing that happens when you are doing our program is you start to lose weight, which means you're burning fat. So if you're doing our program, your body can become depleted in B vitamins and depleted in electrolytes like magnesium, potassium, and your sodium chloride and calcium and all these things, because your body's ridding it with everything else and it's burning up your B vitamins. Hence you start to wake up. That's why it's very important, if you're on our program, to follow the program correctly. And if you are following the program correctly and this is still happening, you have to do more of it. You have to take more nutritional yeast, and you have to have more electrolytes and more water and so on. So that's the answer to that question. Just on that, so also what starts to happen when you come on our program is because you're shedding the excess water, you start to urinate more. So, and that happens a lot at night. Why? Because your body is rectifying itself and rejuvenating itself in the night, and it's shedding all of the unwanted stuff while it's fixing itself in the night. So you get up to go to the loo, like, all right, you can get up a lot. It varies between people, but 10 times is, probably about right if you just start our program. So that could be disrupting sleep in itself, but that obviously subsides. And generally what happens when you're eating the correct food is you start to your sleep patterns start to fall into place. When you're having the correct amount of vitamin D3, there's a bunch of neurons in the brain which are they're the ones that create the melatonin. These bunch of neurons in the brain, and they literally are the highest concentration of vitamin D in your body. They run off vitamin D. That's what they do. So Charlie is asking, what happens when you wake up with headaches? A headache wakes you up early. Okay, daily. So headaches are 99% of the time a dehydration thing. So it's a sodium chloride electrolyte thing. So if you are not, if you're waking up with a headache, you probably have dehydrated in the night. So the way to not dehydrate is to have a bit more Himalayan salt in your water earlier on the next day. So make sure that you're saturating your cells and your blood with salty water, so that, because salt holds water in the body, potassium pushes water out of the body. So balance those things out. It would also be the liver going into overdrive and spewing out, or even burning liver fat. And with liver fat burning, spewing out chemicals and toxins that are stored in that liver fat. Because remember, that's where the liver stores its toxins. It doesn't store it within itself. It stores it on the fat around it. So this liver fat starts burning, and that's what our program is designed to do, is to burn liver fat firstly. So it starts to burn that liver fat, and then you'll wake up with a headache as your body has been trying to fix itself throughout the night. So that's very common. So it's a symptom of either dehydration or some kind of a liver thing going on there. Some people who are not even on the program wake up with a headache every morning just because their liver's very toxic, and it just cannot handle the chemicals that it's meant to that it's meant to spew out. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was all right. So optimizing melatonin, which is really what this is all about, because melatonin is the sleep hormone. If you don't have melatonin, you're not going to get to sleep. So here's some foods that you can eat when you want to optimize melatonin. So you know about the blue light, and you know about all of those things. You know about the electrolytes, you know about the vitamins, you know about the serotonin. So here's what you can eat just as a food that will help you sleep and help your body manufacture melatonin. So tart cherries. So these are rich in melatonin and tryptophan. So studies show that tart cherries consumption can increase sleep by up to 84 minutes per night per individual. Kiwi fruit. So kiwis are packed with serotonin, which convert into melatonin. Eating kiwis before bed. I'm not talking about when you're on our program, because this has also got fructose in it, and it's gonna like mess with your weight loss. So just keep all this in mind. I'm just mentioning these things as good ideas to help you sleep when you're maintaining. So it's packed with serotonin, which converts into melatonin. Eating 2 kiwis before bed has been known to significantly improve sleep quality and feeling of refreshment on waking up. So that's the main thing. A lot of people wake up and they don't feel refreshed. Another thing that you can eat is fatty fish. So fatty fishes have a great source of melatonin precursors. So a whole lot of things that go in, like zinc and copper and those types of things. Kefir, which is fermented dairy drink, it's rich in beneficial microbes. So these microbes help melatonin precursors like serotonin. So you can produce serotonin in your gut. So you have to have a healthy gut if you want to sleep well. So, and then sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is also a very good food for so many reasons. It's rich in vitamin C, but it boosts GABA, which is an amino acid that relaxes the body, and it relaxes the nerves and chills a person out, while before you go to sleep. So that's something else you can do is have sauerkraut. And then one of the best and most simple tricks that you can try is nasal breathing, unless you've got sinus, obviously. But nasal breathing in the right way is used in so many practices to chill out. So if you can't get to sleep, you're probably going to find that if you took note of your breathing, this is one of the, there's so many things that can affect sleep, but this is one of the major things that people don't look at. So if you check your breathing when you're lying in bed and you're tossing and turning and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Why can't I sleep? If you check your breathing, you'll find that you're going like it's like a weird pant, like a dog or something, panting. So it's shallow breathing that doesn't help anyone. So what you need to do is you do this 3 times. If it doesn't work, you try it again, but it usually works. You breathe in through your nose for 5 seconds, just like slowly, like. And you breathe out for 5 seconds, and you do that. Do it 3 times, and you will find yourself going, and next minute you're asleep. So this is used not only for sleeping, it's used in the military. Snipers use this to calm down when they have to take the long shot. It's used a lot in the military. In fact, I actually learned this technique. I didn't really know it was for sleeping, but I learned this technique when I was doing my service, and it keeps you very, very calm, and it just chills out the parasympathetic nervous system. And I can feel you all calming down now, busy trying this out. So that's great. So it just like, that's why when someone has a shock, and everybody says, just breathe deeply, breathe deeply. And that's what it is. It's like people instinctively know that deep, slow breaths, specifically through the nose, because then it oxygenates your brain a lot better, which is at your nervous system. Then everything else starts to chill out. So the breathing technique is probably the most simple and easiest technique that you can do. So is there a 5-second breath hold as well? No. So it's just 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. And that would And you do that 3 times, see how that goes. You probably would have chilled out a whole lot by then. And then do it again if it doesn't work. The other thing, and I've spoken about this before, because, stress is one factor that stops sleep. So stress is the factor that either wakes you up in the middle of the night, or you just can't get to sleep because your mind's concentrated on whatever the problem is that's stressing you out. So, obviously you've got to handle the problem in your life, and there's technologies to be able to handle that. And if you're interested in those, you can contact me directly after this, and I'll send you to some links that you can look at regarding how to handle your problems. But that's what needs to be handled partly, but it's not always immediate. And sometimes when you have problems, you need the sleep to be able to solve them. Okay. So one of the things that you can do to overcome that is, and this also might seem a little bit teety-weety, and it may not work, but it actually does work. So when you're lying in bed and you're doing your breathing techniques, you can also start thinking about things like, pleasure moments, like what you would do if you won the lotto. If you won like $6 billion on the lotto, like what would you do with that money? And you start thinking about those things. Or if you had the perfect girl or the perfect guy, like how would life be? And you can start imagining these things. So you imagine pleasurable scenarios, and those things chill you out a lot. And you'll very, very often find, while you're in the middle of imagining something like a pleasurable moment, you'll fall asleep right there. So that's something that you should try. And that'll even work when you wake up at 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. when it's like you wake up and you're like, am I going to pay the rent and the poor kids, and Joe, I owe him that money, and or whatever it might be. You go, okay, so take your attention off that, and you start thinking about these things. I was thinking about riding a bicycle fast, or scoring a goal. That I do that if I have trouble sleeping. I always think about when I used to play soccer, and I remember when I was a young man, I scored a goal from the halfway line. It was like a spectacular goal, and I always think about that when I'm trying to sleep, and I think, wow, I scored this goal from the halfway line. And there I go, So these things are valid therapies for getting to sleep. You really, really have to do that. The other things for sleep is don't get into like heavy movies or stories or news or anything anytime, in fact, but specifically before bed. If you want to do something before bed, you watch something light. And I'm not a romance movie kind of guy, but I'll watch that if I need to sleep. If I need to have something to help me sleep, I would rather watch a romance or a comedy or something like that to help me chill out, and not a war movie or a mob movie or something like that. The other thing that can keep you awake is strenuous exercising too late in the day. So if you're going to exercise like after 6 o'clock or 6 p.m., you're going to find yourself being a little bit wired when you want to go to sleep. And I'm sure I also don't have to tell you not to have coffee like after 12 p.m. So if it's 12 p.m., don't have any more coffee. It's like, and also you shouldn't be having too much coffee because of what I explained earlier, because then it just confuses everything in your body, and your receptors start to get number and number and number as far as the sleep hormone goes. So those are the little tricks off the bat that I can share with you right now regarding sleep. I hope it helped. And I'm telling you right now, you try these little techniques out. There are a lot more techniques. There's a lot more, to talk about sleep, but it's a huge subject, because there are so many different scenarios, why people can't sleep, So the main thing is, make sure that you are feeding your body the correct amount of precursors to manufacture serotonin or tryptophan, serotonin, melatonin. That's what you need to do. So you don't want to be giving your body those things, because if you give your body them in a supplement form, you're going to you're going to stop your body producing them naturally. You don't want that. That's gonna compound the sleep issue. You want to be giving your body the precursor so that your body makes it, and you can get to sleep easily, so that your body makes those precursors for melatonin. Don't take melatonin. It's like you don't take melatonin. It's really gonna mess with you. In emergencies, yeah, you can do that. But if it's, don't do it for more than 1 or 2 or maybe 3 nights max. You're going to start cutting into your own production of melatonin if you start taking it longer than 3 nights in a row. So don't do melatonin. It's a hormone replacement therapy. That's all it is. So Sherry's asking regarding coffee, how decaf is decaf. Is it better to drink? It is better to drink. Of course, it's better to drink. Make sure you get the organic one and the freeze-dried one, because if you don't have that, you're going to be getting all sorts of mold and fungus in there. And also, if it's not freeze-dried, they dry it with ammonia. So you don't want to be having that, because that'll just mess you. It'll go straight for your liver. Be worse than drinking caffeinated as far as the liver health goes. So decaf is fine. There is a little bit of caffeine in decaf coffee. You're not going to get away with zero caffeine drinking decaf. In fact, if I drink decaf, I sometimes feel more wired than when I drink caffeinated coffee, and I'm not sure why that is. Whether it's just like some kind of automatic circuit that goes, you're drinking coffee now, boop. So but decaf is definitely better for the receptors and so on than drinking caffeinated. And you do get some really good, nice brands of decaf as well that you can have. All right, Stephen is asking, is the blue light filter the one from Revia Corp at Twitter? No, it's not a paid app. It's I'll show you what I hope you can see it. I'll show you what the little what's the name looks like. So oh, there we go. So Twilight, it's there at the bottom on your screen. I think it's second from the right on your screen. It's called Twilight. And like I say, it's a great app. It really is. And I just want to see if that link has been, there's some downloads that you can get here. And I've put a link to a very nice article that I read. I'm actually very proud of this article because I did a lot of research into this. And I started off researching this blue light, red light thing, thinking it might just be, a fad. And I know you mustn't look at your phone too much and blah, blah, blah. But it actually got very, very involved. And it actually goes into even weight loss and how when you don't get enough red light and you get too much blue light, it messes with your metabolism and it messes with your thyroid. So it's a very good article to read that. Because like I say, I just applied a few small things and things improved for me when I did that. So read those articles that I've posted. I think it's the storage.google@apis.com. Oh, there we go. That's the light one. Yeah. So there are some more documents that I want to share with you. The one is called, let me just check here. The one is called sleeplessness. The other one is called sleep and diet, and then optimize melatonin. And there's 1 or 2 other ones that we should be putting the. Okay, great, good, Stephen. Thanks for that. So we should be putting some others on there. So yeah, download those documents. They're free, and they're nice. They're usually written in layman's terms, our documents. However, the red light, blue light one, the one that's called Light in Your Body or Body and Light or something, that one is, or Light in the Body it's called. So that one is a little bit technical. So you'll have to have a dictionary when you read it, just to clear some words in it. But it's very interesting, very technical. I'm telling you what, it'll change things for you as far as your quality of sleep goes. And you're talking about the non-REM and the REM sleep. That's what gets it in sync, is the light. And it's explained in that article. In fact, what was also interesting was what I kind of researched was how cataracts is formed because of these different kinds of light. And when the cataract forms, the person, the metabolism slows down. And when they remove the cataracts and they actually put a lens in that has a blue light filter in the lens, the person starts to lose weight. It was very interesting. It was very, very interesting. Anyway, I would read that if I was you. Okay, are there any more questions? Okay, here we go. Hi, Nick. Thanks for these webinars. Okay. So, yeah, we're having a lot of, I mean, obviously those fires in Los Angeles. I actually have I have a webinar, not a webinar, but I have a document that I wrote called Apocalypse Food. And I wrote it because where I live, and some people on this, I think, are from my area. About 3 years ago, we had massive riots here, and we had billions of dollars of damage done by looters and so on, and our neighborhoods were under siege, basically. So men like myself had to literally go out with our guns at night and man roadblocks to keep the baddies out from coming into our neighborhoods. Nothing ever serious actually came of that. They were mainly in these industrial areas looting there, but it was quite scary. And what started to happen was we were confined to our neighborhoods, and we started running out of food. We started running out of pet food, started running out of water, and all sorts of things we were running out of, and it was apocalyptic. They say it takes 3 days before people start going psychotic. When you take their food and their water away, it takes 3 days, and then people start, going like the zombie apocalypse type of thing. So I started thinking about it, and I packed myself a survival bag, and everybody thought I was a bit of a nut, but I have a survival bag which I keep with food, with seeds, with all of these things in, and besides the trauma of all of this, which I can also handle in a webinar, which is a good idea, Charlie. Like how could you be prepared for this as far as food goes? Because you're going to have food. You can't live without it. You're going to have water, and you're not necessarily going to have running water or bottled water. You're going to have to find water somewhere and purify it. So how do you do that? So these are all kind of fall into, my line of expertise, because I came from a background of that. When I left school, I was kind of in that kind of thing where I was fighting for survival. And so it might be a good idea for you, for me to run a little workshop on that and help people who want to know about how to handle an apocalypse. You never know. And I never thought about it until these riots happened, and it got quite scary. It was like, I remember shooting out to the next town on my motorcycle, I felt like Mad Max. I was like racing out there. I was like, oh my God, there was no one on the road. Like all these roads that are extremely busy. It was like no one on the road, and I went and bought food, and I came back, and so that's a great idea. I'll do that, Charlie. I'll set something up. Maybe I can do that during the week, because it's a little bit off, what I do. I'm about diet and health, but that does kind of fall into it, but in an apocalyptic way. Okay, so how do you lose weight in an apocalypse? It's actually not that hard. Okay, cool. So then I have a book out. I'm going to do a little bit of punt on my book now. It's a good book. It's a lot more than what I've just spoken about, and it's obviously, it's there in black and white. And it's called How to Sleep Like a Security Guard or Sleep Like a Security Guard on Night Shift. And I named the book because in South Africa, it's, Africa's a different place. And you go somewhere and you want to go into a building, and, you got to get past the security, and the security guy's literally sitting on his chair behind the desk, sleeping like a security guard on night shift. And you're like, hey, dude, I want to come in, and you can't get him. So, okay, cool. So purchase the book and give it a read. It's a great book, and it's got great tips in it, and it's something that you have on hand then as well. And obviously, as we go along, I'll be doing updates to the book and adding as I do more research on it, because again, sleep is a massive issue. One last thing, something that can disrupt your sleep is electromagnetic frequencies. So if you are sleeping around plug sockets on your bed, like electrical sockets near your bed, or charging your phone next to your head. Those kinds of things will mess with your sleep. These are, people who live near power lines, that can affect your sleep. It can affect all sorts of rhythms in your body. So, try to switch all those things off and charge your phone in a different room at night. I know it's difficult because people like to fall asleep on their phone, but do that, because these electrical frequencies are you can even turn your Wi-Fi off at night, if that'll even help. So electromagnetic frequencies are also a factor in yeah, there we go. Stephen Goodman says we have our Wi-Fi on a timer. That's great. So there you go. So you switch it off at night and that'll help you sleep. These are all marginal gains that you can do to get better sleep. And I can tell you right now, let me finish off with this. So I was a policeman working shifts, and sometimes there would be like 72-hour shifts where we would just work. I was in an operational area, and I won't even get into that, but we had a lot of violence in this country at that point, and it was like a mini civil war that we had going on. And us as policemen, my unit's job was to stop these guys from, kind of going at each other. And it would just, it ends when it ends kind of thing. You don't like, well, it's time to go home now. We had to work. And it messed with my sleep patterns for years afterwards. I mean, I left there 30 years ago. And I say for another 10 years, I had terrible sleep. I sometimes would go 3 days without sleeping one wink. And it is horrible. It's the worst feeling. Eventually, you don't even know if you're tired or awake or numb or not, or it's just horrible. So, I started looking into, especially when I started looking into diet and that, I started looking into sleep. And it turns out that sleep is like one of the most important things. It's almost more important than diet, but they all kind of join up together and you have to have them all in. But if you're not sleeping, it will ruin your body. Like so many of my clients come to me saying my body was ruined because I went through 2 years where I couldn't sleep, or even after having a child and your child's keeping you awake. If you've got a sickly child or something and it keeps you awake all the time, oh my goodness, man, it just like ruins your health, So that was what happened to me. Now I sleep minimally 8 hours a night, like minimally, unless there's an exterior factor that wakes me up, like a grandchild coming into the room or something like that, or something waking me up. But if you let me sleep, I will sleep 8 hours. The other night last week, over Christmas, I slept 10 hours. I got to bed, went to sleep, slept 10 hours. I didn't wake up once, and it's like a wonderful thing, let me tell you, when you can sleep like that. And it's marginal gains. You got to do little bit by little bit, like get all these little factors in, and they're all in this book. All these little factors in, and you'll sleep like a bloomin' baby. One of the major things is stress, and then get your diet right. Make sure that you're not eating things that are going to keep you awake. Okay, cool. So that's enough harping on from me. I really hope you enjoyed the webinar, and I hope you sleep like a security guard on night shift after this. So if you, what I would appreciate is I want to get more people to these webinars because I feel that I can help. And so if you would, maybe write up a little success story or put something on Facebook or on social media somewhere, say, yeah, I watch next webinar. That'd be great. If you don't, that's fine. I understand. But if you do, that'll help get more people next week, and we can talk about another subject next week. And that's another thing, is like message me and let me know what you would like to hear about next week. But I'm definitely going to do what you suggested, Charlie, regarding the fires in LA. I'm gonna do a whole thing on apocalypse food and how to survive in an apocalypse, because I think that's pretty much what it is there right now. All right, cool, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you all hanging around and listening to me harp on. You've been a good crowd. Yay! We'll chat next Sunday. I have an interesting subject. Watch this space.